Well, the Pentagon has revoked the security detail and clearance of General Milley, a former U.S. general who has been critical of U.S. President Donald Trump. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth directed the move as one of his first acts in office, asking officials to investigate General Milley's quote-unquote conduct and review his military grade. General Milley previously served as the top U.S. general during Trump's first term, but later criticized his former boss and was quoted as calling him a fascist. Since returning to office, Trump has revoked security protections for a handful of former officials with whom he has clashed, including former top health official Anthony Fauci. All right, for more on this, let's speak with spokesman for Republicans overseas, Errol Morkoc. Errol, glad to have you join us.
Oh, yes, thank you for having me.
What you listened to was there said this direction by Trump on freezing of funds is foolish and stupid. And of course, you had Schumer there saying this is Project 25 in another form. What do you make of the fact that it looks like Washington is in a tailspin with that decision by Trump, which of course a judge has temporarily put on hold?
Well, I suppose the freezing of the funds, it speaks to two different ideologies. On one side, you have a nation that was effectively having welfare programs for one political ideology. And on the other hand, you have the new president, the new majority of the country coming in and making their voice heard. So I think it's a little bit of push and pull between the old swamp and the new Trumpian Washington, D.C. And frankly, it is going to be a fight in the court. It isn't going to be easy, but there certainly is a time and a place for conservation. We are the conservatives, and I think that's the direction we're going. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out in the courts and whatnot. But I think the real story here is that people who have been long enshrined in the national capital are going to lose some of their voice, and they're going to fight tooth and nail to keep it.
All right, let's talk about the directive by Trump in an email to workers to either work from home and reply the email if they're interested for financial incentives with the word resign. What do you
we think that's great. We think that the government is incredibly bloated and overweight and inefficient. And if you're not willing to come into the office 5 days a week, like my friends do, then I don't know exactly what the government's role is. I mean, the government historically and strategically should be employing our very top people, our very best scientists, our very best engineers, and to create a safety net for our very bottom quadrant of people. So some labor jobs, some security there. But the entire middle section of the economy is not supposed to be based on government money. That's how you had the fall of Czechoslovakia. That's how you have the fall of any country. Effectively, you have unelected bureaucrats running in slow motion. And I know many of people working in the federal government who do nothing, who literally have their computers on 2 hours a day and do nothing. And so we're offering them a better buyout than any private sector will give you. You can resign, you can go do something meaningful with your life, you can contribute to society, you can stop being a leech off the government money, and we'll even give you 8-9 months severance pay to go and do that. Now we run a risk of, the worst people taking the buyout and then the best people being left to do the work, but usually 10% of people do 90% of the work. And frankly, when you see all of the inefficiencies and all of the bloated bureaucracy, that's the only option we have. We have to start cutting down this federal government size so we can have a real country again, a country that isn't everybody employed by the government like it's some third world fake country. A real country isn't a government country. A real country is a commerce country, a mercantilism country, and that's what Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the Doge committee is doing, and we're all very supportive of it.
All right, well, let's talk about, it's on now, I'm even watching it, Kennedy. His sister wrote what you will call a damning note to the concerning his being questioned on his being a predator. Do you think he's going to survive this?
I think he'll survive it. I think there's a little bit of what happened if you look back in American history with the Roosevelts. You had two wings of the Roosevelt family, the original Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and then the Teddy Roosevelt, and then the Franklin Roosevelt wings. And eventually, things change. And I think that Carolyn Kennedy, all respect to her, she's just an irrelevant person now. She was the most important Kennedy. Now she's not. And she's very mad. She's very jealous. She said, and I quote, he's a predator, and it speaks to why he keeps birds of prey as a pet. Who cares what pets Robert F. Kennedy has? Like, nobody cares about any of this. The way she used the term predator, which in a way has a sexual connotation, and it's going to be the soundbite. But then when you look at what she said, he's a predator for attention. He's a predator for uh, vaccines, this and that. So she uses these coded terms. It's underhanded, it's dirty, and it's somebody who's at the end of her career. I mean, she really threw in her lot with the Obama Clinton wing, and she got her ambassadorship, and she got to go around and pretend she's American princess and whatnot. But it's over. That's over. You don't matter. RFK Jr. does matter. The American people want him. He has a following and support. We want to see the chemicals out of our food. We want to see accountability when it comes to medical vaccines and pharmaceutical companies. We want to see an America where there's a voice for people and a voice for science, not just a top-down directive. And that's what RFK Jr. brings to the table. And that's what Carolyn Kennedy, frankly, has fallen short of in her career. She lacks the achievements, she lacks the quality, and she hasn't done anything with her life to warrant these complaints against RFK Jr., who is out there in the arena with blood on his face, blood on and mud on his hands, fighting for the American people while she sits in her ivory tower and casts aspersions. It will not work. He will be confirmed, and America will be grateful and thankful to have RFK Jr. as the health security of the
The
country.
predator comment, she was referring to the fact that he loves predator birds and he uses, I think he grinds cats and is it hens to feed those birds. That's when she was talking about predator. But let's talk about Trump suggesting that Palestinians, Jordan, Egypt Palestinians should relocate. Of course, this has been flatly rejected at a time. Trump himself is on an immigration blaze. I mean, there's so much we could talk about this, but I mean, what's your sense of that suggestion? And the reply by Jordan, Egypt, and even Palestinians themselves.
Yeah, I think Trump is approaching it from a humanitarian perspective, and it's not going to work. As much as I think his heart is in the right place, he sees the devastation in Gaza. He says, "Wow, this is awful. Everything's destroyed here. The people here have no chance. What can we do? Is there something we can do?" Well, the answer, unfortunately, for everybody is not that simple. And Egypt and Jordan are not going to take any substantial amount of refugees. Jordan, perhaps a little bit more. West Jordan land, there's a connection there. Egypt absolutely will not do it. If you think about it, Trump's going to hear from his military advisors that, hey, we give the second or third amount of military aid in the world to Egypt if you actually look at the brass tacks behind it. And if you were to allow, million people to go in there, Egypt's economy is already very fragile, and you could have a spiraling effect there. So the only real chance would be Jordan, and Jordan has a sort of role to play there. And then the discussion about that it being a type of ethnic cleansing, that is arguable there. If you move an entire group of people out of a region, even if you don't do any violence to them, you move them peacefully and then take that area, that argument can come up. So while Donald Trump's heart was in the right place, and I think he's looking for solutions, humanitarian solutions to the answer, it's not going to be that easy. It's going to have to take a lot more cooperation. We're going to need more Arab countries to come in and work with the United States and with Israel. But the idea that all these people from Gaza can be moved to a new country is unlikely to happen. But I don't think Donald Trump was saying it in a negative sense. I think he was looking at the devastation, looking at the fact there's no water and no food and everything, and saying, what can we do? And unfortunately, that's not going to be the answer unless the Arab world does a 180-degree perspective change and the people of Gaza and Palestine say, yes, we want this. It's not going to happen. So unfortunately for President Trump, he's going to have to try a new solution.
All right, Errol, at least you agree with Lindsey Graham, Trump's ally on this, who says it is not feasible. Thank you so much, Errol Morkoc, spokesman for Republicans overseas.